want to do it right now. Wait, except I'm going to sign this, which is not the warrants. Hey, we're live. So let's dive right in. I'd like to bring this council meeting, well, this is going to be the workshop portion of the council meeting, to order. If you'd all join me, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance right now, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's go right into the workshop. We'll do the roll call later, or you want to do it now?
We can do it now.
All right, sounds good.
All right. So, Councillor Ward.
Here.
Councillor Colby.
Here.
Councillor Brunel.
Here.
Councillor LaRochelle.
Here.
Councillor Albert.
Here.
Councillor Lunt.
Here.
All present. And the next item is the workshop, the Graziano Square discussion.
Chair, the chair of the LDC is here. They actually can kind of start this off if you want. Tonight, basically, we've been working on the Graziano Square for quite some time, and it's getting to the point where the council, I think, actually review it, so we can kind of move on, and Scott will take it.
I'm excited.
Hi, how are you doing?
Great, Scott. How are you?
This is going to be a real quick 30 minutes. We have some pretty good animated walkthrough of the Graziano Square. We had one iteration of this prior to than this one. Dean Willie did it. We did a rollout on Lisbon community information, and we overwhelmingly, we had some really, really good positive results. Everyone seems to be pretty excited to see the changes happen up in the village. And before I hand the mic over to our very capable codes enforcement officer to do the walkthrough, if you have any questions, he should be able to answer them for you. I'm looking through this. If you haven't looked at it already, on the last sheet there's some numbers. Don't get too concerned about the numbers. They basically represent the ceiling of what we would be paying. Like, say if we did bust out retail and actually had it contracted out, that's pretty much our guess on how much it would cost. But as Fern, Ms. Lerchel, and Dennis Douglas can attest, there's an awful lot of community buy-in on this, where we have some citizens that are interested in donating materials and or labor. And
Oh, nice.
So those numbers, we can say pretty confidently that that's the ultimate max, and we really don't see any exposure on going over that number at all. Okay. So that said, I'd like to turn it over to the codes enforcement officer. Thank you.
And just to give kind of a warm up on this, we did actually look at quite a few different ideas initially, trying to get a concept of what we'd like to see there. We had some basic initial type of just drawings of what potentially could be there. We put it out to public. We got some feedback. The committee met multiple times just to kind of going over what their vision of what this would be. And if you think about it, if you're driving through town, what is there right now? And think of what this would look like when it's done as we do a walkthrough. Dennis was kind enough to actually put together a presentation that we could visualize it with. And sometimes sitting in a room, we can have a lot of good ideas, but without actually seeing the visuals, it's actually hard to take. But I'll let Dennis roll through this.
So, yeah, unfortunately, and this being Village Street, in the corner. People aren't aware, it's already called Graziano Square. There's a road sign up on the pole. A lot of people might not see that anymore, but that's still there. It always has been called that. So the idea is a green space park area, gazebo situation here. A lot of the focus on the design was minimal landscape to create as easy maintenance as possible. You'll notice when you go through, the only gardens are the one right here at the entry sign, and then a small little garden in front of the gazebo. The rest of it is complete green space and as maintenance free as can be. All the sidewalk work, everything is not part of this park project. That's through the grant that Tracy's working on and whatnot. So you won't see that stuff is excluded in the paperwork you have. But part of that, for discussion, is I believe all the work is removing all the trees that are pretty much ruining your sidewalks and everything through there. So in the park, we brought in a tree, just one tree in the park on this side, and two fairly important trees on this side, because you'll notice this is a Google satellite image overlay. If you have a large house that sits here, this would give it some protection or some buffer in between the house and the park. It does sit up at a higher elevation. Other than that, your black area is your parking lot, some picnic table area, and mostly green space. And I think the biggest feature you'll see with the park is actually fencing the whole thing in to create an actual real safe park. So with that said, I'm just going to let it run. I can stop it if you have questions, or we can just answer questions at the end on why it is the way it is. We'll load, and then it'll just take you through the park from one end to the other, so you can kind of see the setup.
That parking lot, now the owner of the building right there has a portion of that, is that right?
No, there's, in the design you'll see coming up, this is a fence line here.
Yep.
This is the parking lot on that side. This is all town-owned land.
Okay.
Nope, you're gonna have to hold on. I did this for Twilight, I think. I didn't change it.
Yeah, in the evening.
I did a night, we want to see it at night, but
The night
I'll
version.
put it at daytime if you, sorry about that.
Solid repping the frogs there. That was
Yeah, the frogs came out at night.
made me feel like mid-July right there, buddy. That was awesome.
I did it on the harvest moon too. That probably brought the frogs out. We'll go with a half moon of that, and we'll change it to, if I want to pick a time, we'll say, we'll go for it in the afternoon.
Well, the park looks pretty at night, too.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, huh? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
That's a nice little program. I can show any time of day. It creates the actual real shadowing based on true north. So here's your entry, 196 on the left-hand side, Village Street on the right. That welcome to Lisbon, Graziano Square. I picture a pair of boxing gloves there, if permission is allowed, just to kind of create that whole Graziano piece.
Like that idea.
But the one thing you'll notice here is the sign itself is pretty much the same as what you'll see at the entry signs, the welcome to Lisbon signs we already have. So the program itself, without getting real creative, I can't make it exact, but it's pretty much a replica of what you see on your entry signs, trying to keep that whole theme the same. This would take you down the Village Street side. Yeah, if I go any faster, it will make you seasick. So fencing it in, I can think you can probably see the importance there. If you actually truly want a park, I think that's the only way to do it there. If not, you pretty much have grass, and it's you know, you can use it for green space, but it's not really creating a real safe park area.
As Mark would say, it's actually keep people in, not keep people out. Right, Mark?
Yeah. Building right there is a placeholder. All the electrical comes up in that spot. All the underground conduit, everything's there. The transformer pads, so we'd house that in, and actually the place has some tools to maintain the park or something. This would be a kiosk where you do your welcome to Lisbon. Could show our trails and all of our recreational activities or whatever you want on the kiosk. And then come in around to the parking area. Again, this is a true scale replica directly over a survey that was done by Little River and Google Earth, so it's actually true to scale. So parking spots meet the park, everything is done to actual scale, so you can see how many spaces you can get in there.
Speed bump, yes.
Yeah, if you want to put a speed bump there, they make portable ones.
Right.
The idea is keep the vehicles away from the park side, they're on the other side, just keeps it a little more pedestrian friendly.
Right.
The back corner of the design here is set up for a food truck area.
Excellent.
Plenty of room for food truck, vending, hot dog stand.
Big scooters.
Room for motorcycle parking. And I thought, you know, you got a block away, you have the new Grazi to go. Talk about a nice place for her to set up a spot for in the park in the summer. She could have pre-made sandwiches, salads, whatever, and probably a home run right there in the park. But it is big enough to set a Pinky D's food truck or anything like that. Then this would be the second entrance to the park. This would be on heading towards Farwell Mill.
Yep.
So you'd have the entrance at each end of the parking lot. And it would actually be gated at the other end. You'll see they'll come in from Farwell Mill from that side. But the whole thing would be gated and closed. So some of this is just to kind of show, some of the talk was you don't want to spend a lot of money for huge recreation equipment, but maybe just a simple little swing set, just something small, simple. That's it. sandboxes for effect. I'm sure that would be a cat litter box. That probably would not end up in the final cut. And then your picnic table area, kind of leaving all the green space open, keep it closer to the food area, mulch it in, so easy maintenance, but try to keep it as simple as you can. And then you're back to the double-sided kiosk. I think Diane's been actually working on that this week with some different kiosks with Cheryl. I think there's a grant through the Realtor Group. So that could be an area we could save some money and do.
Is there any way to change the fencing that you can actually see that from the road?
You could if you watched it coming in.
Yeah, no, but to the point, I'd like
The kiosk
the
area.
kiosk to be, it should be seen and not behind the fence.
Yeah, you could try to locate it.
Yeah.
I don't know where, but it's something that can be talked about for sure. So idea here, this is, oops, I just did it again. Hit the wrong freaking button. That's all right, I'll take it down a shorter way now. I hit the wrong button, you'll have to watch from the beginning. We don't want to do that. I'll take you back in. But the gazebo itself, there was some talk on the idea behind that. Let me just get to it here. We'll just do a standard mode and I'll take you around manually.
Alan, were you thinking the kiosk on the outside or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you got your walkway, the fence will be right close to your walkway.
Why
Well,
don't
does
we-
the fence
Then
that
you won't have the
what benefit is that fence that far back? Is that my point? And the other thing that's actually when you're walking that parking lot, and the fact that watching the parking lot and the wall behind it, winter's a pain in the ass. Now you're having to back drag everything and remove.
No. No, we got some
Yeah, we
answers.
had
Did you?
that discussion
Okay.
the other night.
Okay. Good.
Everything's simple here.
Plus,
I think
snow
the kiosk
removal's supposed to
is
happen in parking lots, but I'm not gonna get into that debate. I'll show you 100 parking lots that don't have.
But there would be the need to actually, if there's a large amount to actually remove, you mean?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Remove.
the idea here on a gazebo, at least the way I laid it out, was something ADA friendly, so it's low, it's not elevated up off the ground. But instead of having fixed furniture and whatnot, it's all removable furniture, picnic tables, some chairs, whatnot. So the idea there is very flexible space. You could put a band in there. You can just take the stuff, the furniture out, set up a
I know a
band.
guy.
It's positioned at the front corner. One will be visible from the road on 196, but also positions it so that all your entertainment will be facing the park area down towards Village Street, not out across the 196. But again, just trying to keep it flexible. The only other garden on the design is in the front there, just something small, doesn't go all the way around it. Trying to keep the landscape minimum.
Excuse me.
And you wouldn't even have to do that. But. So that was the idea there, and there is a little theme to that gazebo if anybody picks up on it. But just a little concept. One of the things you'll notice is it's got horizontal rails and just created kind of an idea of a boxing ring without creating a boxing ring, but just kind of mimicking the Graziano theme of the park. I think somebody had mentioned that the buildings back then, I don't remember, but they were called round 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yep.
So you could
Main
do
event.
something on your corner posts. We have quite a creative guy right here in terms of wood carvings. You could actually do something pretty cool on your corner post. You could make that kind of a place to take pictures and recognize the history of Lisbon there and that piece of Lisbon's history anyways.
That type of fence lends itself to all kinds of things that could be put up and then taken down in the summertime that
Yep.
would reflect some of that.
Artwork, you can do.
Just thinking of,
signage,
well,
anything.
the historical piece of it, some of the things you can put in there.
Sure, yep.
Yep.
A little storyline you could put along with small signs telling people walking down. A lot of things you could do.
It's not going to be something that's going to be sun-baked after 10 years and look terrible. It's every year you can bring it down and put something new and run with themes. Yeah, I like it. It's great.
The idea here will be coming down the 196 side, again, just fenced in. And we take you down to the corner. But you can see if I go down to this corner here, and you kind of turn around, it's actually a pretty good green space area. It's fairly large when you do it all out. Make a nice area. But with that said, there was talk on either bringing the bus stop across the street to this side, it's on the far side, or having two, one on both sides. So put a little bus stop area. It would still be fenced off and gated off, so people in the bus stop would be on the sidewalk side, or they can come into the park.
They'd have to go up that walkway where she's going right now.
Come through the gate there and into the park. But gate it all so you could actually close the park if you needed to and gate it off.
Perfect.
Complete with creepy old man on the bench watching the kid walk by.
Perfect.
See that? Not good. Hey, it happens in the park, I'm just telling you.
Couldn't plug in a couple of PD in there just to keep
Oh, I
things.
had some others, but some certain people have seen this, made me take them out. We won't go into that.
That would be me.
Yeah, didn't approve of one of them. One's pretty bow-legged, but I couldn't help it. So again, this is just a placeholder. There's 4 spots in the area where water comes up. The water department's already been out and found some locations. So Graziano has multiple buildings and the water lines come in.
Yep.
So at some point in that park area, we should have a spot where Public Works can hook on a hose and water the park or do whatever, but not for people to use, but for maintenance. So I just put a wishing well in the spot to mark my water spot. But
How much,
that's kind of the idea.
how much would one of those little, the kitty things there where it sprays water up, like I see them in North Conway, New Hampshire?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
Oh, like a mister.
Yeah, so they can get, like, kids can, the toddlers, whatever, if you're there playing with the kid, they could run out and do that thing.
Basically, we're in Maine.
10,
I'm sure
20,
maybe
10, 20 grand plus water.
What's that?
10, 20 grand plus water.
Okay.
They just put one in.
Got cold in here real quick. I don't know what
soon as-
happened.
Well, you can always point them out to
As soon as you talk that, you
Thank
talk
you,
the
Dennis,
ADA
that was
and the
great.
handicapped accessibility and everything else. So.
One of the main focal points of this is the idea of, 2 things are happening. One is the idea of us ability to actually get that property and do something different than what hasn't happened there since the buildings come down. And the second, the idea with the grant that Tracy's done at $300,000, it's going to make a big difference in this area. So if everything goes well and the council approves and allows, Diane to work with the town to move this forward, by early this year, I shouldn't say early, by some point this summer, there should be a huge change up there. So people driving through will just see something happening. I think it will help in two things. Will actually get the people that live up in that area something to look at and be somewhat proud of when they drive by. And also people driving through town, stopping at the intersection will say, hey, look, there's something going on here. And maybe try to start fulfilling some of the businesses up in that area. So we see it as actually being a huge economic driver or a cornerstone, if you want to call it, just to actually try to get things going. The group has actually worked really hard over the last year. It's been not just something pulled out of nowhere. There's been a lot of discussions, a lot of different things gone through, everything from the sign to the type of grass to even the other night when Chris was joining us the other night, and we had a different substrate underneath the area where you eat with picnic tables, and with Mark being there, because Mark is going to be at the end of the day going to be kind of responsible for maintaining it. Trying to come up with a simple solution. I'd just try to keep it so it's not going to be very cost heavy as far as for maintaining. I think we kind of come with those type of factors. So.
To answer your question, Alan, and anybody else, we have a survey from Little River that has us all surveyed out. So if you look at this area here, the town property follows the lines here, comes across here, and actually comes down here to almost a point and back here.
So you can push snow.
It's behind that property there. It's virtually useless to make that a parking lot. But Mr. Houston was at the last meeting and talked about getting snow. We're worried about the fence if you have no place to put snow. So
Right.
you have this whole area back here that's town-owned that you have a place to store, pile it.
Any of the other discussions, first time seeing that park, that turning radius, any discussions either from the MDOT or the project for the sidewalks up in that area, changing that at all?
Which one's that? Because they're all existing there now. But the
Yeah, but it's an opportunity to be able to say, okay, if we own that property now, that turning radius doesn't have to be a 70-degree angle coming in that direction. Has there been any of that kind of discussion?
I don't think there really has.
Mandy's already drawn the new sidewalk project.
Yeah.
I don't know if they
So-
changed it or not, but.
Well, it shows, I can bring in the plans, but it shows it more as a peak type of thing, that it can be done differently.
It'd be great if we could set it back a little bit to make those turns.
That's good. That turning radius.
It's really hard for a lot of people that have to go down that road. Especially with mobile homes that go out back there. They have to use that road to get to 3 different parks.
it just seems like it's an opportunity before we got too far down the line. Everybody's seeing it here now. Is the fact is that is a pretty substantial turning radius. That if we own that property to be able to fix that, I would have that be a key piece in it, in my opinion.
I think Mandy actually probably would be the one to look at as far as how that's laid out. Meeting the DOT specs for the crosswalks and stuff there, So.
Okay.
The only thing that would change would be a little bit of the garden. That's it.
Yeah, you pull everything back this way.
Push it back a little bit. It's not gonna crowd the gazebo at all. Realistically, the gazebo could come forward just a skosh too.
Yeah, she did the same engineer.
Okay, so it's pretty rounded.
Okay.
That doesn't mean, what you said, could change.
Oh,
Yeah, and I think
That's
that we're all agreeing.
that's before we got too far into it. That'd be something I would consider. Is
One thing.
There are vehicles that are going to struggle with that right-hand turn coming off there, and if it doesn't have to be because we own the property, let's take care of it now.
One thing that's going to happen tonight is if the council actually does approve to move forward with it, I know Mandy is going to meet with the town to actually just kind of compare the two projects to see how they overlap as far as the sidewalks moving and as far as the street lights and all that. So it would be a good opportunity for Randy and Diane and Tracy to actually get together and just look at to see what's recommended there, you know?
The project is out to bid now.
That's fine.
So but we can still have that discussion at.
I mean, it may not actually be even a part of that project. It would be just a different configuration on the sidewalk. You'd keep it the same. It'd be pulled back into this and be less on the park side. That's the only reason I brought it up.
Yeah, it doesn't change parking, it's gonna be fit to whatever sidewalks are there.
Right.
I think if you look at the map on how the design is, and you've got more of that curve, whereas if you look at the plan, it's not, it's not the same type of curve. It almost seems like it levels out. It's more of a square.
No, it was part looking at what Dennis has got here and part spending a month driving to gross development, and that sidewalk is pretty cruddy this time of year. You got a pothole associated with that, and then you get the person that actually isn't in the two lanes that you can't make the right-hand turn. It's the all situational stuff that I've seen in the last month. That right-hand turn is a pain.
You can change it, so you just need to do it before you send it out to bid.
It's already
Well,
out.
then you kinda.
That's not true.
No, I think.
The bids have not been received, and you can do an amendment to a bid all day, every day.
You can do a change order, you can do an amendment.
You can do an amendment to a bid all day, every day until those bids come in, and then even after then, you can still do a change order.
If you can gain something right here by 10 feet, I think it would be a lot happier, but.
That's why I was saying too. It's seeing it real time. That is what I would question.
We'll sit down with Mandy and over there.
Everything else looks dynamite. You guys worked
Yeah,
your
no,
tails
by all
off. Thank
means.
you. It looks great.
Be anxious to see it actually kind of get completed. I mean,
What are we talking about the timeline, you think? And I'm not going to hold you to it, but I'm just ballpark.
I mean, the biggest thing is tonight is during the meeting we'll probably ask pretty much with the monies. If you look to go through, the committee's actually put together just a rough initial, not a rough, but it's actually they're actually actual bids in a sense, but they're actually on the high side. One of the things we're going to lean on is if we get if the council does the go ahead is to get Randy to work with Diane to see what as the community what we can do as far as with the public works,
Right.
And then the rest of it go out because like we said, I mean, just speaking to the community, there's been a lot of community input saying that people would like to actually help with the project. Two things I think really comes out of this. One is that area of the town's really going to benefit, but I mean, to me, I'd like to see Public Works actually be working on a project that people look at and appreciate, you know what I mean, instead of actually fixing a pothole in front of the house, but actually, getting some of that good perception of Public Works actually helping on a nice project, and part of the project too is Cheryl actually went out and actually got a grant to the main realtors, or National, which part of that they actually come in for a day and they will actually help and clean, not
They
clean
make
up,
it part of their volunteer effort.
That's something I was gonna organize, but I went through the National Association of Realtors to procure a grant, and that grant we decided to the kiosk, because the grant was only $2,600, so, I mean, it kind of matched what we're gonna get with it.
Sure.
But yeah, I can get I figured it would be a good interlocking of community with another group, a big group, and we can get a lot of PR from that as well.
Yeah. And just the idea of having something in the community is actually takes a lot of pride in that. So all that corner's been kind of an eyesore since the building's come down, you mean? So a lot of people, instead of actually having political signs put all the way through it, we could actually have something nice that people can look at. So
I was a big fan of
signs.
PW.
yeah, that'd be nice.
No political signs.
PW was the one that cleaned it up after we bought it, so.
One of the things with this, as Mark actually alluded to earlier, it is going to be a designated park. So basically, all the restrictions as far as for, with any of our parks, as far as for daylight hours with 9 to 9, is that?
It's actually it's off to some now, but MTM have different hours because we have movies and concerts in the park. But you can do whatever you want. You can have it set from sunset to sundown.
And, the idea of no smoking. I mean, there's a lot of different factors that can happen there, but just the idea that it'd be somewhat controlled would be kind of neat, so.
No, looks great. I think it's that could be what we need to get people to leap off on that corner as we show that we're willing to put some skin in the game. A business owner comes along and says they're willing to do the same. So.
Any other questions of, there's actually quite a few of the members of the Liaison Development Committee here, so if there's any questions, I'm sure they'll answer them for you, but.
The kiosk?
Yes.
I think, like what Alan was saying, where it's on the inside, what if we did something similar to the front with that, and you incorporate the kiosk into the fencing so you can see it from both sides and you don't have to peer through a fence?
I think something to look at for sure. Yeah.
And then if you had it closer, it would be available for people who park on the street side too.
Because we do want it to be very noticeable, because the idea is if people see
Marketing.
the park and they stop,
Marketing.
then they can actually look and say, wow, Beaver Park actually is this way, and the walking trails, and if you were to go on this walking trail, this is where you'd end up. So knowing that you could actually park there and walk to Liaison Falls, and actually have a place to eat when you get there, that type of stuff. So
There's going to be I'm sure it's part of the plan, I'm sure we talked about it, but refresh my memory. Same crosswalk that we have down over by Davis Street in the Falls with that development. We're going to have something similar that's well lit, or no, that's not part of the plan right now?
part of the redevelopment that actually Tracy went through is they're actually taking the crosswalk away from the idea of being down by the walkway of the Firewall Mill.
Move it down
and
by the bus.
moving it actually to the intersection, so it's going to be a safer. The crosswalks are already there.
Yeah.
We've already paid to upgrade them.
Right.
Now it's just the idea of actually making it
That's going to be where
well-marked sidewalk, so there'll be one crosswalk
That's
there.
perfect.
Yep.
Just wanted to- That's the connector to the path, obviously.
That's the connector to the path right there, yep.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, absolutely.
The LDC chair actually referred to costs in the back. Where's financing coming from? Just out of curiosity.
That's a great question.
I can explain some of that if you want.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Just for the public consumption, by all
Yeah,
means.
yeah, yeah.
So tonight during that meeting, we'll be talking about it. We actually have, there are TIF funds, downtown TIF funds, that we actually pull in from the downtown network that actually is kind of designated to do economic development and for this type of project. So there's actually a couple areas that Diane can actually pull from. We actually still have part of our match that we use for the 196 that we actually haven't spent a grant from before that actually could be used for this also. So so all the money would actually become from money that was actually already previously.
And that was the key soundbite that I was hoping would go out over the air.
No new tax money.
No new tax money. Thank you.
No new tax money.
Perfect. We can pass it. Thank you. Just for clarity, what I'm passing around right now is the mock-up for the kiosk that that Diane and the group were identifying as possibly the one they're going to use. So we're just taking a peek at it up close. So TIF funds, if we were to approve that, that's where it's going to come. So no new taxes, just to kind of regurgitate what we've all been talking about here. And right now, this number is up to, not to exceed.
Correct.
With the understanding that, in all likelihood, it's going to be much less than this once we get the key players in place talking about what we'll be able to do as a community and maybe some volunteers and some other folks who want to get in on this as well.
The only thing that may actually deviate from the plan that you see is actually that brick wall that goes down the borders of the neighbor's property.
Yep.
There is actually a retaining wall right now, but actually that is actually on the property line, and whether or not it's actually practical to actually make that happen with that wall. There will be something down along that edge, whether it's a 4-foot brick wall is actually probably going to be yet to be seen. So it's just a big cost factor, and not knowing anytime you get to property lines and there's a different grade there, how that would all work out with the neighbor. We want to just make sure it works out properly. That's all.
I thought that was.
In light of that, I know that there's already been some surveyor out there, and we know every line to be true.
Correct.
So we're not getting any surprises after we. Good.
That would be the hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming in, taking the time tonight.
I have one question.
Fire away.
I noticed the dog waste stations. Are we going to allow dogs in the park?
I didn't see anything.
Mark shaking his head yes. So pretty much what we do is, I think,
We don't have a park in town now that doesn't allow them.
Do we require them to be leashed or
That's a
muzzled?
law.
Been leashed, that's a leash, that's a law.
Yeah.
yeah.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
Well,
So how are we gonna keep up with people? I mean, we all know there are not responsible dog owners out there who pick up their dog's waste. So
Yeah, I think you have two major concerns in that park, and that's based on everybody notices at Farwell Mill, there's people standing outside, not even in the parking lot, but up on the little bit of grass they can to smoke, because Farwell Mill doesn't allow smoking there, so you will have an issue policing that park. If people want to go over there to smoke, it's going to be non-smoking, I think, by town policy. The other thing, Farwell Mill does allow pets, and they have no place at all for the pets, so it would be a great place for them there, but you have to be aware of that maintenance issue for sure. I think the park like that has to have cameras, which I know there's a big push right now for the PD working with cameras and stuff anyways, but that's one way you police that park for people that are common violators, you'll have them on camera, I guess, but those I think are your two bigger issues with the park.
Does that camera cost? I didn't see it in here.
We don't actually have anything actually
Put
calculated.
a number, but it isn't really.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where it's hard to, you hate to think that, it's going to be a very visible area, so it's not like out in some back
Yeah.
road or something. So, I mean, it's, anybody who's there is going to be seen. You know what I mean? But
And, I mean, I think we all understand that any sort of stuff that happens after dark will get policed by the police force, and they're going to be going through there. So it's just going to be during the daytime, some of the challenges you mentioned. So.
But Mark seemed to be on top of it, so I mean,
I think Dennis, talked last time about security lights, to have the parking lot well lit, and have lights poking inside the park itself, so that when there are drive-bys from the PD, that they can clearly inside the park, no dark spots.
I'd show it to you at night.
Yeah.
You kind of did.
Anybody else? Any other questions? No. Okay. Thanks again. We want to do this right now. It's on the agenda, I'm sure.
yeah, we'll bring it up at the LDC. We'll actually have another conversation.
Yep. Thank you all.
Be interested to see this project move forward, actually see it go from screen to real life. Gonna work for you?
It was. Maybe not. You know what? That's right. Next item. Sorry,
Would
Twyla.
be good news and recognition.
Anyone? Anyone?
Next item is the public hearing, medical marijuana establishment license for BBB Pharmaceutical Alternatives LLC.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing. If anyone at this time would like to come up to the microphone, state your name and where you live, and have any sort of input on this matter, please feel free to do so at this time. Anyone? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Next item.
Is audience participation and response for agenda items.
Again, at this time, if anyone would like to step to the podium and address any issue they might have with any of the agenda items, feel free to do so at this time. Seeing no one, moving on. Next item.
Is the consent agenda. Anyone wishing to remove an item may do so now. Seeing none. Order 2019-53 to approve the municipal accounts payable and payroll warrants. Number 372019 for $13,281.50. Number 314219 for $10,923.91. Number 319219 for $229,723.14. And school accounts payable and payroll warrants. Number 21 for $287.97. 1046 for $296,648.08. Number 1047 for $11,530.86. And the council meeting minutes as of March 5th, 2019, with one change from May 28th to March 28th. We have one typo in there.
I make a motion to approve.
I second that.
All in favor?
Order passed, 6-0. Under council orders, resolutions, and ordinances, order 2019-54, the tax acquired property disposal.
The 30-day redemption period has now expired for 21 Serena Street, and we did not receive any tax payment on that. So the next step is to have you authorize me to dispose of the property through a sealed bid. So that's what I'm asking tonight. And the amount owed as of today is $15,338.13. So it would go out with a minimum bid for that amount.
And where are those published? Pardon, sorry, Ms. Chair.
Where are those published?
Where are those published?
We'll end up putting something in the paper, and it goes on our website, and we put it on the door, and we can send it out as an e-subscriber alert as well.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
May I, for discussion?
Yes.
And just to be known, is that just property, not a dwelling?
There is a house
There is
on
a
that
dwelling.
property.
Is it
yes.
actually
No,
occupied at
there's
this point?
nobody in that house.
It's a dead end street in the gross development. I know exactly where it is.
So it's
though.
Oh, it's
actually,
vacant.
so it's a vacant home that no one lives in?
Vacant home.
Yep.
You're right.
Okay, I just wanted to let that be known, that's all.
Order passed 6-0. I saw all those hands.
Yeah, they all did it.
Thank you, Twyla.
Okay. Order 2019-55, the Fire Department bid award.
I just want to bring your attention to the last paragraph and the council recommendations that I had. The word Globe brand will not meet our needs. That was wrong. The not should not have been in there.
Evening, Nate Leclerc, Fire Chief. We received 3 bids for turnout gear. The first one was from Bergeron Protective Clothing, the vendor for Globe Gear for $11,380. Northeast Rescue Systems, which is a Morning Pride dealer, for $12,140. And from Industrial Protective Services for Fire Decks gear at $12,310. After reviewing the specs, I don't see any reason why Globe Gear won't meet our needs. It's the low bid anyway. It does take us away from what we've been using for the past 12 years, but we've been using the gear for the past 12 years and haven't varied from it. And if it was time, we kind of reached out and re-looked at our pricing, and this is what we got back. So I do recommend we go with the Globe Gear at this point in time. Another benefit behind the Globe Gear is that it's a widely used brand in the area. Lewiston, Auburn, Topsom, Brunswick, Yarmouth, North Yarmouth, Bowdoin are all using this brand gear. So one of my thought processes is trying to do a group bid at some point in time with our department who's using close to the same specs that we're using. That's one of the thought process behind that as well.
Try to co-op with other departments when
Absolutely.
they. I gotcha.
Yep.
But there's no, from a quality perspective, you feel it's the same.
I do. We're at that point. It's like when you're buying jeans. You're buying denim. Everybody gets denim from the same place, whether you want Lee, Wranglers, or Levi's. And that's where we're at here, is that we're getting the same fabric, the same liners, the same moisture barriers from every vendor. It's how it's put together and how it fits and moves. And Globe, every vendor has different levels of entry level to the top of the line. And the one in this example is not their top of the line. That's like $3,000 plus per set. I was a little outside of my wheelhouse. But this one's still has motion built into the gear, so guys can move when they need to move, versus the entry level stuff, which is cut like it was 20 years ago, which is not as movability is not as good. So this is the route we went.
So what was the total figure on that, Chief?
For the Globe Gear is $11,308.85. Now, I will say that probably won't be the exact figure because they did not figure in the lettering on the back for individuals' names, which is $2.70 a letter. So that might be $138 more.
So what are you thinking the total figure would be, just so should we actually try to get
Well, it's going to vary between I went with the most number, like the Robotile name, which is probably the longest name we have in the department, which would be $27. But like Jim Beal's $4, so it's going to vary per name to name.
So you're thinking total bid of like 11,500 in that range?
Yeah. And once the lettering's put on the back of the jackets. Yeah.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, Chief, the 11,380.85 is the high end?
That's the 11,380.85 is the low end. That was not including the lettering for individuals' names in the back of the jackets.
But in all fairness, the other two don't include lettering either, right?
They actually, the other
Yes.
two did.
Go with your motion,
The two did. Yeah.
the 11.5, not to exceed.
Do you think 11.5 will be enough?
I think 11.6
They
just
may
to be
do
safe.
11.6, not to exceed,
Yeah,
just to be
yep.
safe.
11.6, that way we cover for the buffer. You're saying you think it's going to be like $1.20. Let's just roll up, because if it comes in lower, then it's no harm, no foul. The money doesn't go out.
Right.
But rather have it be there than have to come back and make all the changes over $100.
Make a motion for discussion.
Absolutely.
One second. Have we actually done?
I'll second it for discussion, absolutely.
And just funding for this, just so people are aware, the funding for this is already money that's
It's
actually.
already been allotted in the budget.
And what was your allowed amount for turnout gear? Do you?
I had in my line, inside my line, was 13,000.
13,000. So you're actually still within your budget
Right.
range.
Well,
Yeah. Just make that point.
thank you.
Yep. But I make the motion that we actually accept for a globe for 11,600, not to exceed.
We had the second.
Yeah, wait a second. All in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Next item.
Order 2019-56, medical marijuana establishment license for BBB Pharmaceutical Turnout LLC.
May I? Make a motion for this.
Second? Now we get the discussion.
There you go. So with this tonight, actually, this pretty much finishes the public hearings. Everything's all in place, right?
With completion.
A long road, so.
Yep. Yes, it has. All right.
Any other questions?
Anybody?
I got none. That's why I was just a general.
All in favor?
All opposed? All abstained? All right, the 501, order passed.
Next item.
Order 2019-57, not-for-profit payment in lieu of taxes agreement.
So I'm going to read some of this for the listening audience. The Brunswick Housing Authority, through their nonprofit entity, Greater Brunswick Housing Corporation, is a partner in the limited partnership that owns and operates the Old Lisbon School at 4 Campus Avenue in Lisbon Falls. Recently, the property ownership changed hands from the limited partnership to the nonprofit entity. And the nonprofit entity does qualify for tax-exempt status and has filled out the necessary paperwork with a tax assessor. They did meet with Kathy and I a couple of weeks ago to discuss this proposal, and they understand that when they have the tax-exempt status, they no longer have to pay taxes on this property. And they pay taxes now to the tune of more than $20,000. So as part of this change, they have agreed to pay the town of Lisbon a payment in lieu of taxes, and that's the agreement we have in front of you tonight, and is strictly voluntary on their part. They don't have to do this if they don't want to, but they want to. They recognize, the value of this community, and they want to still be a partner in this community, and they know that there are services that they will be using in this community through our police and whatever. So they have agreed to pay an annual payment in lieu of any service charge, and in an amount to equal 50% of the real estate taxes that would have been assessed by the municipality against the property if it were not in tax-exempt status. So the current year taxes are $20,145.24. If this agreement was in place currently under the tax situation, they would have paid us $10,072.62. So tonight, I would like authorization to enter into an agreement with them in payment, in lieu of payment for their property taxes.
I'll make the motion for discussion.
Yeah, I'll second for, thank you, yeah. So let's dive in here.
I heard the key soundbite that it's voluntary. In that regard, they're on board now. If they change their opinion down the road, do they have the out clause, or does this trump it because there's an agreement in place?
There's different ways that they can get out of it in the agreement. If they go out of nonprofit status, and they would have to pay. If they should have, the one part we have in the agreement is if they should have a major reduction in their federal revenue that they receive, and they cannot make their operations work over there, then we can renegotiate the contract.
Okay, but to be able to get out of the contract just because it is something that's optional, it's not an option for them.
Right.
Once it's in place.
Right.
May I? Is there, in the past, there was actually a balance of unpaid taxes or some question of taxes in the past. Is that still pending on this property at all, or was there any?
Oh, not over there.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Didn't at one time, when that was turned over to Brunswick, didn't it get sold for like a very low amount? I don't want to say $1 because I don't think that's accurate, But I want to say, the idea was that we were turning it over to the town of Brunswick so that they could establish low-income elderly housing. It was my understanding. So if that was a private entity, when the understanding it would be beneficial to us because we're sitting there not doing anything, somebody's going to come in and make an investment in the community, it's going to generate tax dollars, fantastic. But now if it's changed hands, it's a 501c3, and this is the only recourse. I'm just trying to understand how we got here. Dawn, you want to jump up?
They changed their,
Miriam also attest to this. I think it was a year ago, year and a half.
Tell everybody who you are, Dawn, just so we know. But
About 2.5, I think.
I'm Don Fellows, and I'm on the Assessment Review Board. A couple of years ago, year and a half, they came before our board and appealed their taxes, and they had withheld some and agreed to pay some. I don't know all those. I don't remember all those details.
Right.
But they appealed them and were turned down.
Mhm.
And so a year and a half later, we have
They're
a
moving
different
on.
organization. So
Yeah, they're moving on.
that's what I can.
So they're looking for the workaround.
Yeah.
I got you.
So when this was sold, was there any kind of an agreement? I mean, we should look back and check the old paperwork to see, because it seems a little strange that it was sold for, a very low sum, and it might have well been $1.
Correct.
That, I'm curious if there was any paperwork there that said, you have to keep it
Or-
in this partnership, or you become.
Or if nothing else, I'm not saying that we want to be in the business of that, but I certainly think that we have to look at this a little bit closer and figure out what our options are.
Do not get me wrong, that payment in lieu of taxes is rare, and I am not discouraging anything on this to be able to put that in there with the 50% is better than nothing, but if that...
I mean, I assume they're agreeing to this because they don't want to have some lawsuit or something. They're
Correct.
just doing it because they're nice.
They're agreeing to this because one time and done. They're, realistically, if they were going to go to, and I shouldn't say it's the same folks. I don't think it is. But if they were going to talk about their tax bill and try to get that overturned.
If their mission is actually truly about low-income elderly housing, the fact is I can support them for what they're actually doing towards that and wanting to stay in the community. Them actually demonstrating that they want to go back and pay back to the community, I would be okay with that. And the fact is, because that was the intent of what got that property to be redeveloped to what it is today now.
Agreed?
May I?
Yeah,
Is
absolutely.
this the only property that they actually own in town? It is, okay. I was thinking it was different.
Is there more coming?
Well, that's,
I appreciate that, Fern.
well, I mean, it's,
Shoot. So where are we at? Anybody else got anything else?
I guess I'd actually ask Diane, I mean, with your workings, there's really no options, right? Is that what you're looking at?
it's
This is what-
voluntary. They qualify for tax exempt, so you either get 50% or you get nothing.
Right. I would make a
That's-
friendly
that's
amendment to
the-
our motion in a second, I would offer. The fact is, subject to anything that doesn't disallow us from what the original sale to be able to get this
Yeah.
development, I would
I
leave
can
it at
check
that.
on that and see.
That gives Diane the flexibility to be able to check on that, but we can at least move forward with passing this measure tonight.
So that's your motion then?
No, it was a friendly amendment. I can't
Yeah,
do that because it's the first and the second.
I know.
Do you have to vote on the amendment?
I would offer that friendly amendment.
Okay, so
Is there a second?
I'll second.
thank you. All in favor of the friendly amendment?
6-0, order passed. And then that's the main motion as amended.
So, all in favor?
Yes, that's where we're at, unless there's
Yep.
any other questions.
Yeah, that's where we're at. Anybody else got anything before we vote? All in favor of the motion?
As amended.
As amended.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Is that a 5-0? 6-0? Okay.
Yeah, let's do it again.
I thought it was a
we're all
little
there.
slow. I
All
wasn't sure.
It's all of us. It's
all
all. I was
6-0.
pretty sure it was all of us.
Okay, 6-0, order passed.
So you'll go and do the digging then, Diane. We'll
Yes,
go
I'll
get-
check on that.
Okay, good.
I'll
Thank
go
you.
see Kathy and we'll look that up for you.
Perfect. Next item.
Order 2019-58, the Finance Department Assistant.
Lydia isn't here to talk about this tonight. She's out sick, and I'd rather have the discussion when she's here.
I think that'd be a great idea. Anybody opposed that idea, waiting for Lydia?
I think she wanted to bring it in front of council because we're not presenting our part of the budget till the end of April. We're like one of the last ones, and she wanted to get a feel from council to see if there was any support in this. And,
Yeah, and she's talking about it just so
Yeah.
clarity for anybody who's viewing. This is for a position that would be part of the next budget cycle, not anything for this year. We wouldn't be adding any position this year. So yeah, I think that's fine. If we'll push it to the next agenda.
Yeah.
Feel better soon, Lydia. Next item.
Order 2019-59, the Waste Diversion Grant Application.
All right. Yes, sir.
I think Tracy was the one that wrote the memo to get this on the agenda tonight. So she'll be working, actually, Tracy will be probably writing the grant if we get permission. Basically what this is, it's a waste diversion grant project. And the Conservation Commission's been working for several months now on trying to come up with a town-wide plan of composting. And we have some ideas, but we don't have anything set in stone right now. But basically, we'd like to use the opportunity for this grant to get this pilot composting program. The wheels are moving right now, and hopefully by the summer we'll have something in place.
To echo, sure.
Go ahead.
To echo Mark's point, they met at 6 o'clock, the Conservation Committee, and they are in complete support of moving forward with this grant application at this time.
Is this the last discussion or presentation we had about the composting, and there was a $3,000 figure that was put out there? Is this actually in combination with this, or is that part of that?
It's going to be close to that figure. I think more between $2,500 and $3,000. I mean, we met with Randy Sear and talked about how much work they can help us with creating a location. We may be able to save some money with materials and labor. But what we know right now, going with Garbage to Gardens, which is outsourcing of composting, we're going to be running around $2,500
So is that money that we actually already brought forward
for 1 year
for that, or is that something that we need?
It's in the upcoming budget.
It is.
And this is a
Fiscal year 20.
This is a 25% matching grant opportunity.
Yep. So you're looking for permission to go for the grant? I mean, that's kind of what you're looking for.
Right. And I think I said that the deadline is April 26th, so we got to get moving on it.
Yep.
Any other questions from anybody else?
I make the motion that we allow Tracy to actually proceed with completing the grant application.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Great.
Order passed 6-0.
Thank you very much.
All right, next item.
Order 2019-60, the Single Stream Recycling Contract, Casella.
As we discussed last year, we knew that there was going to be a change in our single-stream recycling. We've been paying $30 per ton and $150 per haul rate. And under the new contract, Casella is going to charge us an average commodity revenue. They already have started January 1st, 2019, and it could be anywhere up to $130 a ton, although it hasn't gone that high on what we've seen so far. But they wanted us to sign a multi-year contract, but I wanted to do just an annual contract because I've had some discussions with EcoMaine, but I don't know if that's going to be feasible for us because they don't do the hauling. We'd have to contract with a separate entity to do the hauling, and then it would go all the way down to Portland. So I'm not sure that we would save any money, but they are a non-profit entity that's doing recycling versus a for-profit, which is Casella. So I want to have time to look at that before we sign a multi-year. We've been with Casella forever. It's probably going to, at the end, it's probably going to be our only option. But to go out to bid on something like this, I don't know of any other entity where we could bid with, and you wouldn't be comparing apples and apples because of the hauling of the product.
JMA?
Absolutely.
So how do we budget this at the max amount? I mean,
that's how I'm budgeting in fiscal year. I'm doing the $130 per ton.
So what does that change that?
That's only about $8,000.
So it's not
It's
drastic.
not huge, no.
But it is a dollar figure.
Mr. Chair.
We did meet with Casella, Randy and I did, and they expect later on the market's going to change again. But we're in the downward turn here. Everybody's facing this right now.
Go ahead.
I have a question on the time frame on this contract that you're proposing.
Mm-hmm.
If this one's already lapsed, we're ratifying something. And more so is what would be the time period of what you're proposing with Casella right
The
now?
contract, I told them I wanted to start July 1st. Have
So
the contract start.
if they're
with them.
already charging us there, what is the motion that's before us? Because they're already charging what they were looking for anyways.
Is to just sign a we don't have a contract with them currently. I could not find
So
anything.
if we have no contract, then okay.
Yeah, none. They
I
couldn't
would-
find one either.
I would propose that we actually put one in play from now that covers us through June next year, so it's actually
Oh,
15
so you want to
months.
start it now instead of July 1st? Okay.
If
that's
we don't
fine.
have
If
we don't have a contract that afforded this, they could actually change the rules of engagement before June, and then we don't have anything until July 1.
Right.
I wanted to like a contract now
Okay.
that actually
Do
at
it
least
effective
formalizes.
immediately.
I tried to get them to keep the $30 right through June 30th.
Right.
They wouldn't do that. I tried.
Shocking.
I know.
And I'm not seeing anything that actually entices me to want to deal with a monthly year deal if I'm not seeing the financial carrot when they're already charging us to be able to recoup their losses. Let's leave it at an annual.
Yep.
That would be my motion. I think I had a second right
Yeah.
here.
I'll
Yep,
second it.
all in
No, that's
favor?
fine.
Order passed 6-0.
Next item.
Is Order 2019-61, the municipal budget presentation.
So you all have your binders in front of you, and we're going to go in more detail as we do the budget meetings. The fiscal year 20 municipal and wastewater expenditure budgets are here for your review and consideration. We propose a budget for municipal services with the goal to fund our operational needs and begin a capital improvement reserve for future expenditures. This budget maintains a level of service currently provided to the citizens of Lisbon, and this budget also has some departments requesting some additional staff, and you'll hear more about that as we go through our budget meetings, and it's really to meet the needs of the departments now, and the town is growing. I think everybody has noticed that, so there is a need out there. The fiscal year 20 estimated revenues are not part of this budget, but will be presented at a later date. The big part of the revenues is our revenue sharing. And right now, if you go on MainRev, the Treasurer of State of Maine's website, and you look at the projections for fiscal year 20, what they have out there is having the revenue sharing at the 5%, which is the way it's supposed to be. I don't believe that's the way it's going to end, but should it be that way, right now, in this current year, we estimate $633,000. If it goes to the 5%, it's going to be $1.5 million that we would get in revenue, and that's what they have posted. That's not what the governor's budget is. The governor's budget is 2.5%, and that would get us another $170,000 in revenue sharing. That's still all up in the air until they sign the final budget.
I think I saw something just the other day, and I can't remember if it was an MPA bulletin, but there was a bulletin.
It was an email we all received.
Yeah, and exactly it, stating that when we're putting together budgets, we want to be very careful about that because of the
Exactly.
the high water mark that everybody thinks, anticipates that we're going to get back for revenue sharing.
Exactly.
I think we've got to be conservative in that way.
We should know, though, by the time you get into June and you vote on the budget, and I do that budget comparison sheet, so it's way too early for that. It's way too early to look at the excise revenue, although the excise revenue right now is down. I'm a few percentages off. I don't know if that's an anomaly or if we're just lagging on getting the excise revenue in. I don't know, but I'm going to be keeping a close watch on that.
In a month and a half, motorcycles and boats.
So you have two different requests. You have the initial request, and then you have the manager's request. So I'm going to focus on the manager's request just for tonight's meeting. The municipal budget manager's request total $9,421,201 for an increase of $543,397 or 6.12 over the current budget. The items that I pulled out from the initial budget, I have a different way I want to fund it, not through taxation. So it's not that I don't want those expenditures, but I'm looking at unassigned fund balance and some other things. So that's why it's pulled out right now, and then you'll see in your packet on a sheet with unassigned fund balance, and you'll see what I've pulled out. The wages and benefits total $5,369,737 comprising of 57% of the budget. We do have some new positions that we're requesting, and we do have some positions where we want to just increase the hours. And some of the other significant requests that are non-salary, you have the workers' compensation, which I've told you our experience mod has gone up quite a bit. So that's resulted in an increase to this budget of $41,642. We have had a lot of things going on. We still have a lot more that we haven't finished up as far as projects. So I'm looking to increase the legal line. The police department replacement wages, that's $24,306. That one right there, that one line item, we're going to be looking at that more closely. That's not going to be the final product. I think that's going to end up coming down. And the cruisers, this is the year that we have to buy two cruisers. So I have one cruiser plus a little more in the current budget, and then I have another portion coming out of fund balance. And the way that I'm budgeting it, by the time we get to the next 2 years from now, when we need to budget need to purchase two more cruisers, we'll have the money set aside already. So we're going to be starting like a small reserve. And then the Lisbon emergency stipend is up $21,288. Public Works professional services is up $10,000. I've included an additional $50,000 for paving. The Public Works winter supplies, we've increased that by $10,000, and that's the line that we buy our salt from. And that's been up for the last few years. We haven't budgeted enough. And then the solid waste disposal is up about $10,000. Those are some of the non-wage line items. And like I said, another part is the town insurances. I don't have the quotes, but I did put a 5% placeholder increase on all the town insurances, and I'll readjust that once I get the premiums in. So our unassigned fund balance is $2,427,745. That's lower than in previous years because we've been using it to fund some of these capital expenditures. And I look to do a little bit more in this upcoming year to help offset the budget. And that's pretty much the overview of this budget.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
The positions that you list, Diane, do they include the benefits when you're giving them
Yes,
out?
they do.
So it's
They do.
for everything all in?
They do. That's everything. The other part of this is we still have a couple of positions that we are filling. We haven't received the paperwork back from the employees, so depending on their selection of health insurance, I may be able to reduce the budget even more.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
LES stipend, what's that cover? Just for the
Lisbon
consumption?
emergency, our stipend for the
the allocation
ambulance.
for year 2. Thank you.
And it's the exact same amount as they put in their spreadsheet last year that they said we would be getting for year, that they would be charging us for year
Right.
2. There was no increase in that. It's
Correct.
exactly what they thought it would be.
And my last, is there a list that you have someplace in this material of what you're looking to fund out of fund balance for recommendations?
Yes, it is.
Where is that? Just out of...
That is... Might be under the miscellaneous tab.
The miscellaneous?
While we're looking for that, let me ask you about the 5% increase on the town's general insurance accounts. Is there a number associated with that ballpark?
Oh, I did not off the top of my head.
Yeah, I didn't
I
think you
know.
would, but I think if we could put our, at least put our arms around it and understand what that might look like.
Yeah.
So that way when it comes back lower, we can say woohoo.
Yeah,
Is
and
that-
it's not going to be significant, but
Yeah.
it's...
I mean, I know the school usually figures 9, and that's good. I mean, are we figuring 5 is going to be a safe number?
That's what I was driving at. 'cause
They
it's-
did say that. It's right there. Okay, it's in the front part of your binder, in the sleeve.
Okay.
All those papers that I put
Oh,
in the front.
in the sleeve,
Yeah,
thank you.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
Mark just found it.
Just the home game when we're playing along that everybody could follow, because
Yeah.
anything you change on that changes the budget. That's
Yeah.
the only point that I was making.
The other account too is the HRA that we fund. We're gonna look at that towards year end, and if whatever's left in that, we'd like to carry forward into a reserve, and then I won't have to raise so much in taxation, because I fund the whole thing, but typically we don't spend it all, so that's one of those items where it'd be good time to start a reserve on it.
We're two in that? The HRA. Have we done?
The health reimbursement
Yeah,
account.
is it? We've done that in the past, so how did we do last year's, I guess would be the question.
I'll have to look back at that. I don't think we had a whole lot left, because we had a lot of change in coverage. We had people that used to take the buyout and then took the insurance, and I'll look and see. Plus, we've added people.
Because if it assists you, I'd make that motion right now, because it's a less of a liability that will directly benefit the budget.
To make a motion to carry it forward.
To carry it forward.
Yeah, that would be great if you want to do that.
I would do that right now, because instead of actually funding everybody's HRA fully every year in the budget, you're raising for not the need. We just do the difference between the two.
Yep.
That would be my
So
motion.
that will help.
So make your motion again.
Right now, the unfunded HRA is only contributed for what needs to be replenished, not the full value.
Right.
I need a
I'll second.
Thank you.
Everybody's clear? I want to discuss this. Everybody knows what we're talking about?
There's not, by the sounds of things, it's pretty much just going to be fully replenished this year, because there was not a lot of reserve left over this year, correct? By the
But
sounds of things.
she's looking at the basket of goods could be different from year to year.
Exactly. Yeah, you just never know. I mean, there could be a year that you spend the whole thing, it depends.
But you're never going to go above what you originally had. It's just that's the
Exactly.
worst case non-conservative figure, and I'd rather have the lesser in there if we could.
So if we're all good, all in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Just hope we have years that we have reserve, right, and extra money.
Every year that we do, it helps.
Diane, is there any reason why we're missing the code enforcement section?
Budget? No, it should be in there. Did I not put? Is there nothing in there?
I don't have anything.
No.
Alan doesn't.
Sorry.
Well, I was going to say,
Okay.
I'm sure the taxpayers wouldn't complain, but Dennis is going to have a problem tomorrow, I'm pretty sure.
Sorry, Dennis.
Unless I put it somewhere else, I'll get that for you.
Okay.
I'll email it to you, and then I'll get you a copy for the.
Cool. Question on reports, because I know it's the first year that we're on Munis for financials.
Yeah.
Is there any difference in format from what you were able to provide for prior years?
It's going to be a little bit different. She did a spreadsheet for you. She took the parts of the trio and she did the budget to actual. She did it like in a spreadsheet, and that's what you've got in there for your budget to actual.
I know one of the reports that I actively looked at or used, and everybody's used it for the last 2 years, is looking at 2 years worth of history.
You've got that.
We have that this year.
We do.
Okay, as long
Yeah.
as that's the only reason I was asking, because it's hard.
She took the prior history from Trio,
And then what
and
we
then she
have
took
now.
the current history out of Munis, and
Yep.
she put all of that together in a spreadsheet, so you'd have that.
We have less heartburn than Mark and I do at the county when their fiscal year is totally non-conducive to when they have to prepare a budget.
Yeah. I did just get their budget, by the way, in the mail yesterday, the county's budget, so it's not in your packet. If you want a copy of it, I can take the binder apart and put it in, but.
How's it looking?
We guess it went up.
County's budget? Yeah, it's up.
It's $41,000,
41.
$42,000 increase for
But
us.
I didn't see anything on their website to download, so that's why it's
Can
not
you
part of your.
just send me the dollar figure that they say they went up in percentage? Because I want to know if it confirmed, because if it was anything different than the budget committee, then they should have opened that process.
Turn to your tab. Well, I don't know if the percentage is in there under county. You'll see the exact
County.
amount, and I think it's exactly what.
Okay, as long as
Said
it's
earlier.
nothing different than what Mark and I voted for
I
in
don't think
October.
it is, but
That's
I
all
will.
was-
There's one sheet that shows you that.
Okay.
I'll get you that.
Perfect, thank you.
Is that a lower percentage now based on the idea of when we actually redid the TIFs and we were looking at that, there was supposedly a benefit, the idea of redoing that TIF
That won't
deck.
be probably till this upcoming year, because it
Following
lags
it.
behind a year.
So it does a full year lag behind.
Yeah, it lags behind
I
a
see
year.
it this year.
Yeah, the valuation
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah. It goes by the state valuations, and they're always a year behind. So we'll
Within
get
a
it
year, we
a
may gain as
year
much
later,
valuation
yeah.
as we're actually going to lose from that. But either way, it's all good.
You're fine with county. That seems to be the figure that I remember, Diane.
Yeah, I
And
don't
I
think
wasn't
so.
expecting any surprise.
No. But like I said, this is the very first draft, and there still are some moving parts in it.
And next week we have Parks, Recreation, and CIP. Everything's still according to plan, right?
Yes.
Are you requesting that we get you questions by a certain time period to be able to make it? So Thursday afternoon to
Yeah,
be able
that'd
to
be
make it
fine.
for Friday?
Yeah, Thursday or Friday, I can get you everything by Monday.
Just prepares you to be able to get it
Yeah.
out rather than a
Yeah.
special request is all I was. Okay. I can do that. I got no problem.
Remember, Alan, there was a time limit put to our meeting for workshops.
Yeah. What, that was two hours?
It's exactly what, no, but that's exactly why we got to send our questions to the email.
That's my making the point.
Oh, I know.
That's making the point.
I'm
is
picking
that-
up what you're putting down.
Right.
The duct tape.
Yeah.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. No, I think that we'll be able to kind of streamline this. We're coming in here, having our questions
Right.
answered.
Duct tape?
Yeah, I'll get the mustache one.
The mustache.
Have to defer to
Mustache.
Mr. Ray, but it is not the first time I would have been duct taped in public.
Hey, next item. So,
Moving on.
we all set? Understanding first pass? Anything else we got for Diane on this initial kind of overview? No?
The adventure begins, right?
That's right. So I'll strap in. It's fun now. Alrighty, next item.
Other business, council committee reports.
School. No news is good news. Moving on.
Planning. They are working on daycare ordinance. At present, they're going through punch list, and the 26th is the public hearing for the comp plan, so I just bring that to people's attention as well, too. That would be my report.
Next is the LDC.
And as you've seen earlier, the presentation has been a lot of work to get to this point. And what I'd ask the council tonight to actually approve the idea of allowing Diane to actually use up to $75,000 of our TIF and other funding that is not tax raised to promote this corner to try to make this move forward. And then should be working hopefully hand in hand, hopefully a little bit sooner than the rest of the project up there, but actually to get something going so the spring we'll start seeing some good things happening there. So I'd like to see us make a motion and actually vote on that now, just to allow that to happen. I mean, it doesn't really need to be that official, but I think it would be good for Diane to actually have that part of it done.
You make a motion, it's
I
official.
will make a motion that we actually allow Diane to actually use up to $75,000 of TIF and other funds that are not tax raised. And she can explain that a little bit more if you like, to complete the Graziano Square project.
I'll second. All in favor?
And order passed, 6-0.
All right. Conservation Commission, which is...
We covered it earlier.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought we already hit that one.
Good to see them working. I mean, they seem
Oh,
like they have an active
they're
group.
enthused. I don't want to slow their roll. Absolutely.
That's nice.
Recreation Department.
We haven't had another meeting yet, but I know they're busy planning Moxie.
Excellent. County budget. We kind of touched that one already.
Yep,
but
we're good.
okay. All righty. Library, Mr.
Nothing
Lund.
to report.
All right. And water. Well, that brings us to a very interesting. We didn't agree.
No.
We didn't. Yeah. So we probably should assign a new liaison to the water department. Anybody jumping into the volunteer role on that one?
I nominate Norm.
Sorry, who?
You.
Yeah. I would love to take that on, but I like sleeping indoors. And if I tell my wife I got one more committee assignment,
There was one point in time that I know that they were looking to try to get more public. I mean, is it a better idea to actually have them come in once a month or once a quarter to
You
actually?
have a
We-
written report in front of you.
Right.
too.
oh yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I know that at one time we had talked about that. If we're at a crossroads, why not float that idea as an opportunity for them to come and see us. I think
So
that
once a month?
Yeah.
that would be ideal.
That or even once a quarter. I mean,
Once a
whatever, as
quarter.
long as he can come out and actually, I think the general public would like to hear. I know there's a lot of comments out there about water quality, description of water, and if nothing else, to be able to get out in front of public and explain where they're at and what they're doing, I think it's never a bad thing.
What if we had them just send in a monthly report
Well,
and every quarter
we're
come
getting
in?
those. We're getting those.
You
yeah.
have one today in front of you that he sent, a written report.
We're getting those, so I think FaceTime is good.
Yeah,
If it's
I'll
quarterly, it's
check
not a
on it.
hardship,
Right, that's what I'm saying, monthly letter and quarterly coming in.
Come in, yep.
I think that works. And plus, it's one less thing Twyla has to type on the agenda from now on. See? Always thinking of you, Twyla.
Always.
All right, next item.
Is town manager's report.
I just have one thing to report on. We did receive our ISO public protection classification rating. We were at a 6, and they're going to reclassify us down to a 4. So we've contacted them, and we want to put something in place to get them more information, and this is mainly around the water in our system. The water department, I think, has to answer some more questions. So they're going to give us a year to do this before they actually change the ISO rating. And what it is, it's an analysis of our structural fire suppression delivery system. So a lot of the questions in that report surrounded, Nate and his department, but also the water department. So and when we saw the report, this is it here, we were looking at it, and there's some things that are a little off. So we're going to be revising some of it. The survey started in 2017, and we're just getting the report now. So we met with Bill Alexander, and he's going to make some corrections, and he's going to get them some more information. So I'm confident if we can get them what they need, that they'll put us back up to a 6 or better.
And if I remember right, if I may, this actually does affect not just the municipality, but actually everybody's fire insurance at the house, basically upon a rating.
So we really need to get it back up to where it needs to be, and we're going to be working hard on that.
We have your assurance then that we'll be getting regular updates as to where we are in this process.
Yes.
Correct. Good.
Yes.
And I don't know if, I guess I would have to see what changed for them to drop it down. As far as, I'd love to see that report.
The only thing we don't have is we don't have a copy of the original report to see where the changes were.
Well,
None of us had that on file. I know Bill had something, but he didn't have, all he got was the actual letter, 2-page letter. He didn't even get a copy of the report.
So let's find
he's
out.
Got that,
They got, if there's a base or a point of reference, I should say, that they used prior to where we were at 6,
Yeah.
they should still have that on file.
They should.
And if we can get a copy of that, we can compare. If they're the same report, they should be pretty plain to see where the changes have been made. If it's not the same report, then we can at least drill down on this and saying, hey, I'm sure they want to be a partner with us. And
Yep.
that's why I think it's going to work with us and give us a
No,
year.
we've already contacted them, and
Is there a chance you could get us a copy of that?
you want a copy of this? Sure.
That'd be ideal.
Yeah, I can. Yep.
Just scan it, send it in an email. That'd be awesome. All righty. Next item.
Is department head written reports.
Anybody have any questions about any of the written reports?
Just a little bit of feedback on a couple, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
At first, looking at the fire chiefs, I want to thank him for reaching out to Assistant Chief Fire Rich McCarthy on the apartment dwelling review that we talked about. I think that's going to be huge to avoiding some bad publicity. So I know it's going to take time to be able to get there, but not having anything on somebody's radar screen, I think it's the right approach. And the other one is on the police, just to showcase a couple things that people might not be aware of. 2 new initiatives that started in February, the Developmental Disability Registration Program and the Wanderers Registration Program. There are a couple of initiatives that are aimed at addressing better response for first responders through the police department. So I would encourage you to reach out to Chief to be able to find out on those to see if they can be better served in our community. That's it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Randy's here to give you a report or an update on the paving.
I love to hear it.
I know.
Come on up, Randy. Good to see you.
All right, so all of you know about Pinewood Road. I'm Randy Sear, Public Works Director. As you all know, we have some outstanding projects. I'm meeting with Allstate Paving on the 25th. There's going to be 4 of us, 3 of them, 1 of me. And it's my understanding that there's probably extra tonnage compared to what was bid. So I'm going to ask them to do a little extra in some areas because we've all suffered with the phone calls and the complaints about Pinewood Road, Park Street, and everything else. Now Whitney and all the other projects that were in Madeline that were taken way further into the fall. But I'll let you know that you can't all hold the Allstate for not getting it done. We had an unusual, cold spell in November. Myself being a paving contractor, know that I've got parking lots and stuff that didn't get done. Usually the paving will last 2 weeks into December. This year they closed the plants down 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. So with that being said, I don't, everything on those streets that weren't paved were all, to the best of my knowledge, and Steve will attest to this, everything was prepped and, to be paved. We got rain. Then right after that, they reprepped it, then it froze. So you can't pave when it's frozen. And then the series of events just led to the closing of the plants, and then here we are.
Right.
It's been a real pain in the butt for everybody. We've got probably 70 yards of gravel that we've had to put on there just to get rid of the potholes because we can't grade it because it's all frozen. So the best we can do is just add more material. All that material that comes out, we're going to stockpile and use it for further road projects. So it's not like it's a waste of money, but it's just a kind of a waste of time right now. But they're really going to have to schmooze me if they want any more paving contracts from me. But I think they know that.
Yep.
And they've sent me an email today saying that we're first on the list. Basically, I forwarded to Diane that they plan on being the last week of April is when the plant operations are going to be back up and running. Like I said, I meet with them for sure on Monday. We were supposed to meet this past week, and that didn't happen. So moving forward, there's a lot of paving projects that need to get done. We're going to be chasing the sewer department, as everybody knows. My biggest thing is, and we need to get the water department on the same queue that we're in because they've got a bad line going from Pinewoods Road all the way past Marshall.
Yep.
We're slated to put in the sewer line, but they don't have the funding to lay their pipe at the same time. We're ready to lay the sewer line. So what problem that poses is that they're going to end up digging up a brand new road. Yeah. And that's the one thing I am totally against. So I told Bill whatever he's got to do to get the money, he needs to try to get it because I don't want to open up and have to dig up a brand new road that's taking my paving money away from a lot of the other streets that need to be paved in this town. Total waste of money, and I think whatever he's got to do to get himself on board with these projects that we've got going. But we can't hold up our sewer projects just because he doesn't have funding.
Right.
So I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but I know that if I pave a brand new road and he gets done his project, it better be a brand new road when we're done.
Right.
So if there's any questions for me.
To Randy's point, I will reiterate that the capital improvement plan is supposed to be more than just a wish list. It's supposed to include all projects for the community, including school in the water. If it isn't, then we need to get it to be.
So I think it goes without saying, everything, we all echo what Randy just said. It's pointless to waste money, especially when we know there's roads that are in dire need. So I'll back up and just say thank you for jumping all over that. I think nobody I think is sitting there and looking back and saying, it was just poor timing. I think that maybe making a decision as a community going forward will, it's always nice to be able to have that little bit of extra time sometime to wrap up a few things late in November.
Yeah.
But I think when you can have something like what happened this year, could happen, I think you just got to draw a hard and fast line that says we're going to go through a known date, whether it's October 31st, whatever it is we choose.
That's exactly what I was talking to Diane about today. October 31st, dead our deadline.
And I think it's a smart way to approach it, so we don't ever want to put people in this spot. I think we all can appreciate if you're driving to and from and you have 3 different ways to get there and they're all a mess. It makes it tough, to look at your tax bill. So that being said, I thank you guys for jumping on it as quickly as you did. Saw some of the stuff that bubbled up was immediately addressed, and some folks who were definitely the loudest ones talking about it have since fallen off the wagon because it's those fixes. And they realize, too, hey, this stuff we get one good rainstorm, we'll be right back square one.
Absolutely.
So fingers crossed the sun stays out for a few more weeks. But.
Exactly. And the only other problem with, having an October 31st deadline, of course, the streets and everything don't get unposted till May 1st or just around the first or second week of May. It only gives us like 4.5 months to get all our projects done.
Right.
That's not a lot of time.
No.
So
but
we got to kind of use our best judgment. If the project's not going to take too long, we can probably go over the October 31st, but not make it the 31st.
Well, here's what I mean by that, and I'm sure what you just said lines up exactly with what I'm about to say, which is it's subjective. You know what projects are going to fit in that window.
Right.
But last year I think we bit off a little more than we could chew after October 31st.
We tried to cram it all in, but it's
Yeah.
Obviously, I've only been in this for a little over a month, but I can see where the issues happen. But can't blame the contractors for an early freeze either. So.
Yeah, no, I think this is just kind of a perfect storm of things came together. So.
I think it's important. Go ahead.
Go.
I think it's just important people to realize that. Not that there is a problem, but there is a way of actually correcting it, and that will actually be done as soon as possible. I think doing the best humanly possible way of actually getting. If everybody drives around, no one drives on the road right now that they don't see what this year's weather's been doing to every road. So, I guess all we can do is do it.
We're trying our best. So far, we've probably put out 8-9 ton. That's just coal patch. And we've tried some other products, but it's a little more on the pricey side. It's called Aquafalt, and it comes in a 4-gallon bucket. But you add water, and the more water that's on it, the harder it gets. So in trouble areas like Franklin Street and stuff like that, it's worked out really well. So in the future, we'll probably get a pallet of it just for the parts that get pounded out all the time. A lot of the time, it's on a turn or on a place where they take off and spin out all the hot top of the coal patch that we put in. So
196 and 125, that corner, is that what you're using that hole there?
Yeah, something like that. So that's a perfect example of a spot that would work great.
Yeah.
It's kind of pricey. It's like we can get it for like $28 a bucket, but it probably takes 6 buckets to fill a decent sized hole. So it's not cheap, but you got to know where to use it. That's all.
This year seems unusual because the potholes don't just seem to be one layer of tar. It looks like they're pounding it all the way through. Yeah, which is wild.
There's some deep ones, and it's multiples. Usually every now and again you just find that one, you're like, yeah, I can go around that guy. But then you're going from bad to worse in some cases. That's the tough part of this.
Pretty much.
Every municipality's having the same issue, so I guess we're
everybody,
just one of many.
Everybody I've talked to.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
Where do we stand on funding that he has left from last year with the paving, and where is he? If he's got a 5-month,
I just did that for him.
if he's got a 5-month window, where we stand on actually getting a bid out there to be conducive?
I think we're left at what, 183,000?
Yeah.
So are we doing a spring supplemental paving bid to be able to at least get Randy started before this year's budget?
Well, this is the deal. I'm going to step in on this one.
Okay.
This is the deal. As you all know, Doobie Gravel's been hauling down Pinewood Road constantly. Every second they get, right to it changes from 32 to 33 degrees, which is how our postings read, whether there's running water. There's no running water and it's below 32, they can truck. Running water or over the 32 degrees, they have to be off. With that being said, there's that road from where we're going to leave off at the top of Pinewood Road, from Ferry Road to Pinewoods, that section that we have that's graveled. From there to Cotton Road, which is the entrance to Beaver Park, all that road should be redone. It's not going to last another year. It's if everybody has a chance, take a ride. You're going to see it's horrible. The design, that road was not designed to take that kind of weight. You got 80,000-pound vehicles, 5 and 6 at a time, 8-10 trips a day. It's just not going to hold out. So, it's going to be part of my budget. My plan is to try to get that section of road finished all the way up through and just get it done and be done with it. get all our trenching done. If there's culverts, get them all in. But that is going to eat into $425,000 only gets me 2 miles of road. So you're taking almost half of my budget out for that.
Anything that's not in the budget, though, actually has to go before the voters.
Right.
When you cap the 250, see that you're dangerously close there to be able to even make that operationally happen for you.
I'm just going to say that, if anybody here, like I said, takes a ride down that road.
No,
you'll
I'm not.
see-
I'm not disagreeing with you. It's just
Right.
the fact is, our hands.
Oh,
are
I know.
tied.
Everybody's hands are
Yeah.
tied. I get that. I get that. The money's tight, and I get that. But
Yeah.
just know that, at some point we should really think about. I don't necessarily. The way to do it would be to grind it all. That way you have a base, and they could recrown it the way it's supposed to be. Compact it, put a base down, put your top coat down. That's the way to do it. It's the more expensive way, but it's the way that's going to last. But
May I?
I
Absolutely.
mean, that's just paving. I mean, people call and they're like, "Why are our roads so much like crap?" I said, "Well, probably because they haven't been maintained to the point they should have been years ago. We've gone to the point now that they're way past where they should be as far as maintained, whether they're resurfaced or whatever. I mean, you go through Houston Park anywhere, you go down to anywhere through gross development, you go to any street in this town, everything's got problems. So, but I know the tax dollars only go so far, and that's just
Well, the next 2 years, it's actually following a sewer project.
right. And that's basically taken away from everything else.
And yes.
And that's why my frustration with
Yes.
Pinewoods Road, Ferry Road up to Marshall, if the water line's not going to be put in, I mean, that's just, waste of money, the money we don't really have.
Correct.
So,
Go ahead.
You made a comment about the idea of the weight on Pinewood Road. I mean, the idea of just resurfacing that is not going to change the way that road's built.
no, not
Same.
resurface it's not going to do anything. I mean, you could do a shim coat and resurface it. You're just putting Band-Aid on it. That's all you're doing.
So what would
Because
actually, yeah.
What you've got to have is a better base. That wasn't really built. That was built for park traffic. And maybe Houston had a few trucks going in through there, and Goddard owned that before. They had little trucks. They didn't have triaxles that are upwards of 80,000 pounds. Now you start putting all that heavy traffic in on there, and Doobie's going to rape that land until it's done, and that's all he cares about. The taxpayer, I know he's allowed to get back there, but the roads just can't handle it. I mean, to redo the whole road, it should be all, dug out, box cut, and everything else, but there's no way you're going to be able to afford that.
Is there any clause that would say that if we could prove that it was being damaged by a certain individual, that they'd have some type of liability?
And because he's a taxpayer in this town, he's allowed to get to and from his property. I know, it's a hard pill to swallow, and I wish there would be something that we could do. But I am on him, like, I can't say it in here, but anyway. I'm on him about, getting that, being off the roads when he's not supposed to be there. I've called PD already a bunch of times. Same thing with Eaton off of Summer Street. I called on him today, so I'm very much policing everybody that's going on our roads with heavy equipment.
So, in the budget presentation, is Randy going to be prepared to talk about what we can actually do for this and potentially? I'm hearing clearly if we need to do with a reconstruction, you're talking something that needs to be bonded and actually needs to go out in a November referendum to even be considered, and that isn't something that won't happen until next spring because you're clearly past this October 31st.
Right.
So anything he's talking about now is 2 years out.
So you said there's 183 in there right now that's not been used?
You were at the
So
current.
that, at the very least, that would carry over.
Yeah, but that's actually
but
been,
that-
But there's
for the
still a
project's
lot of-
already ongoing. I mean, it's
That's
already.
why I wanted to make sure I was understanding that money's already earmarked and going to be
It
used.
is.
Roughly 600,000 following the sewer project.
But we still got, as
Well-
Steve will tell you, we still got Nason Street to do that's not included in this paving. We got Osborne. We've got parts going down. And Nason Street was only paved to a certain point, then they left 200 feet out. I'm going to say that they go the rest of that 200 feet if we have extra hot top or tonnage left over from the projects we have on the books now, which is Amalfi, Warren Circle, Park, Pinewoods, Madeline, and Whitney. Those are the ones that are on the book and approved.
What's the deal with
as of right now.
Bartholomew? Is that's not a paving project? That's a
That's a culvert project.
That's a
culvert because of that. Yeah, I mean,
That's the one where we're gonna try to go
We're
after
going to try to
grants
get a
for
grant
that.
now.
okay.
And the other one is slip lining. I mean, I can call CLH and get a price to have it slip line, which is basically they end up inserting another pipe into the pipe that's already there.
Right.
Providing that the bottom's not all gone.
Right.
And that would be another avenue to go.
With that being said, I guess with Alan's question initially, do we actually still have the funding available to actually finish paving the roads that were slated for the sewer project? I mean, because I know some of that funding was used.
We're going to have to tap into this year's, I believe.
Yeah.
So there.
Yeah, because we use some for the shoulder work on those
Correct.
major roads. I think, was it 15? No, it was, I can't remember. now
Summer
what it
Street and Bowden and.
right, and then the other one was the crack ceiling program.
Which
okay,
hasn't been done yet.
Right. That hasn't been
I don't know
done.
how that didn't get done last year, but I saw
You know
it
why?
was.
Because it didn't go in front of council till October.
So
That's
some
why
of
it's
the crack
the
ceiling,
way
which is already allotted the money for, is going to get done.
right. And because of the way the weather acted towards in November, that's why it didn't get done.
I would just want to try to make a point that the roads that we actually talked about crack sealing are still doable for crack sealing. I mean, just make sure that they are.
Just throwing your money away.
Well, I mean, that's maybe things have changed a lot since last year.
Never know what you're looking at. I mean, that crack seal would be pointless now if you got
Yeah, I mean, if
it's
you
not a
did
crack
Pinewood
anymore,
Road
it's a
right
gap.
now, I mean, it's all spider crack. The whole thing's falling apart. So it'd be a waste of money to even
you can do a
bother
percentage.
going out that way.
I guess I would just want to make sure that we
We have an
look
out
at those
clause to
projects.
get out of that contract, correct? Because you have a valid bid. We awarded a contract.
Right.
We have the
We
ability to get
award
out of
that-
that contract, correct?
We'll look at that.
I mean, we could
To
actually.
to Randy's point, the fact is,
There are roads that we just paved in the last couple of
But
years
there
that
may
are already
be
cracked
some
pretty
roads
well.
that we
So
may
maybe,
wanna do.
I mean, we
We
may
may
just.
not do
Thinking
the
of
same roads that
Gould
we
and
originally
Bowden,
wanted to do.
Bowdenham Road.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these, even if you look at Houston Street, that was seal coated, and that's actually cracked pretty hard already just from the weather we're having. So,
Right.
I mean, we may just have to go
Thanks.
back and look
Yeah.
at the roads that we just paid just funding on for sealing. But again, I think before we would want to look at that pretty hard.
See, you just probably hit a good point. I mean, we've been band-aiding even more roads with just more hot top. I mean, it looks good for a year or two, but you're not taking care of what's underneath the surface, which is junk. You know, like part of Warren Circle up past Spears, where your old place is, all that's broken up to a point up there that there's so much clay underneath. That's actually going to have to get box cut and taken out. I mean, before that even gets paved. So whenever they tell me they're going to pave that, we, as the Public Works, have got to go in there and put gravel in. You know, so Buttons was telling me that the other day, that part of that has to get dug out. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, and compacted and rolled and probably put Marafi underneath so you don't lose all your product and none of the old clay pulls up through. So
I think it'd be worthwhile too to look at the projects we did last year on Summer Street and Bowdenham Road to see how those, because I was told that some of the side filling that was done last year has washed away in certain areas. I hate to see that actually some of that new paving get washed away just because of the weather we had this year.
Right.
But again, you only can control so much of that. But
we got an issue right now that we've asked Randy to come in and speak to. One of the things that I would not want us to be messing around with is the fact that when we come out of this with a budget that's actually been approved, I would like him to be able to go out to bid with what he intends to do for the coming year with what we have available funding, rather than wait until July to allow him to even start that, because that's what caused some of this last year.
Because you get further and further on the list, you're screwed. So if I have to wait till July,
I can tell you right now, the Glidden Paving's already got 11 contracts actually in play associated with that on their calendar already. So anything we put out, you're at the end of the damn line, and you're looking at the end of the season.
We should be going out to bid next month, and then it's subject to final approval.
That's what I'm saying. It's effective.
So let's get our ducks in a row then.
Yeah.
pretty much.
Do you need is it? We have seen in the
Where's it on
past, the fact
schedule?
is you need a recommendation to be able to do that. If you want a recommendation, I'll make the motion tonight.
to
Peter-
go out to bid for on our.
Once he has a budget figure that he can work for, that his hands are
That
not
would be
bound to
wonderful
hold
if
it
you
up.
did that, then we wouldn't have to wait for the next council meeting. So,
Then
yeah,
my motion
that would be
stands.
great.
And I'll second.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Right, so there you go.
Awesome.
Best we can do
Yep.
for right now.
I mean, that way I can get all the pricing put together, hopefully get on the list early.
And then we can, if nothing else, we can bring it back here, and whatever the number looks like, then we can start to let you give us an idea of what we're gonna chase for the sewer project, then what other areas we can make the most bang for our buck. Sounds good.
I'll work with Steve with what we got left and what it's gonna take, then I'll go from there with what's left over, and I'll get it out to bid. The worst road's done.
Perfect.
All right, thanks.
Thank you for coming in tonight.
And if he needs to do any education on Pine Woods, we need to hear about that sooner than later. Because that's good, that if we need to hear anything on reconstruction associated with Pine Woods, we need that sooner than later, because that's going to be a November referendum.
Did you hear that, Randy?
What's that?
If we need to hear anything on reconstruction on Pine Woods, you need to be prepared to speak to that, because it's going to be a November referendum. We won't be able to touch that till next spring.
No, you don't have to get up, but you understand what he's saying, right? He's asking for some more information so that you can really get it rolling. So because there's a timeline, again, to get on the ballot, so for November, we want to make sure that if you do need some construction or you need some more above our actual limit, that it can actually get on the ballot in November.
In order for us to support.
It's my understanding that
this vision
we don't hit
public.
July. We don't even have the time period to be able to even make it happen for you for November.
Part of me, getting some quotes, it's gonna be to do that next section, and they're gonna be able to tell me whether or not the
How much
base-
you can do with what you have now.
What I can do with what I got now, and if the base will even support, if it's even worth just grinding and doing, or do we have to actually box cut it out and rebuild the whole road?
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the issue.
Sure.
What do we have underneath it that's gonna support the hot top?
Please.
Okay?
Thank
So
you.
that's what I'll figure out.
Yep.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Is there any way when we do the workshop for Public Works and the wastewater treatment plant that we can get the water department in here too, to see where they're at as far as what Marty was addressing?
Why don't we try to get them to partner sooner rather than later?
Right.
It's gonna make it a lot easier for us.
I know that they're
And at
planning
least so
to
we
go
get an
out to
understanding.
referendum in November for the Main Street project.
My expectation is that we'll have the school department and water here next week for a capital improvement plan. Is that not? It's not a reality.
It's on the it's on
Because
the
it'll be
agenda.
the first thing coming out of my mouth.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's one basket of goods.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
You and your baskets.
I know, right?
Lots of baskets.
Got to get a bigger basket. It keeps going.
Gonna need a bigger basket. All right. Next item.
Is appointments none, Counselor Communications?
Anybody?
I think we communicated.
Yeah, communicate. I'm going to take a moment to communicate. A guy in the back there, Steve Avioli. Sorry, I didn't mean to single you out. Thanks very much for coming to make sure that I wasn't dead in front of your house a few weeks back. Appreciate that, buddy. It was nice to see a friendly face.
And holding hands with Randy every day now for the last month.
Right.
Good job, Steve.
All that good stuff. Thank you, buddy. We appreciate everything you've done up to this point. All right, good. That's my communication. Next item. There is no-
Audience participation for new items?
Anybody at this time who wants to come up and go, come on. Just give us your name and where you live in Lisbon.
I actually am not a member of Lisbon. I am a member of the United States Department of Commerce.
That's okay, too.
I'm here.
What's your name?
My name's Jerry. I'm basically here to ask the council to put on the agenda the 2020 census so that we can get the word out. We have a possibility of about 17 good-paying jobs for the Lisbon residents right now, and I only have 3 people that have signed up. This has come because of part of not being able to use the library for census training locations, and just not being able to reach the people here.
Okay.
So we need the city to partner with us to actually get the word out and try to get those jobs filled.
17 good paying jobs. Can we?
Is that part of the communication that was released maybe a couple of weeks ago? Because I did send something out on that where it had it listed a whole lot of jobs for the upcoming
Most likely.
census.
Unfortunately, we're still pragmatic of where we're at. I don't know if partnership has reached out to you yet or not. I came just because I saw the thing.
I got an email on it, and I don't know if there's going to be somebody else that needs to contact us.
It should be handled through either my manager
Okay.
or myself. I'm the
Okay.
recruiting assistant for
Yep.
the area.
Okay.
So basically what we're doing is jobs that start at $16.60 an hour or up for citizens in Lisbon area, especially if we could get this communicated to any seniors in your high school that are coming out of classes this year.
So that's an easy enough one. Is
Diane?
there an electronic communication that could be sent to,
Don't go away.
yeah.
Yes, I can send electronic communications to anyone who would like them. I do have the email. If I can have the email address, I can send it out.
Yes, see, I think ultimately, if we can get it off to town manager here, then she can disseminate that down to the superintendent and then the principals and so on and so forth.
Yep.
That one actually has a.
Go ahead.
Posting it on the web.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Put it
I
on our
did
web.
something just recently, but if he's got something different than what I've done, then I will
Okay, no,
get
that's
that.
why I was asking.
Yep.
And the other part too is what you said that they're not being able to use the library for a training center. What's behind that? Is that on your end or our end?
When I spoke to the library manager, it was the fact that you guys have 3 computers there that people use on a constant basis.
Yeah.
What we would need is a couple-hour block where people from the city of Lisbon that do not have home access to a computer can come in. I can be there and help them.
Okay,
But
so
we
it's
need
the
to have
computer
a-
terminals.
yeah,
I
we
got
need to
you.
have a computer terminal that would be designated for it.
We'll be able to fix that. We should be getting our new laptops from the school here shortly. I bet you they might be able to scare up 1 or 2 extras.
So we didn't even need the library at that point. If you can actually scare those up and we can have a connection, you might
The
even do it
Wi-Fi
here.
connection right there at the library, so they can do it
Right.
anywhere. They're not bound
Right.
to the stations themselves.
Right.
They can
But
sit in another
one
chair
other
in the
thing,
library.
too. I'm just thinking about the Lisbon, Maine Community Information page. You send that electronic communication to Dean, I'm sure those jobs will be filled for
Right.
the half-a-day mark.
And I'm sure if they reach out, Diane will actually do whatever she can as far as the community part of it to
This
make
is
sure that
only
works.
wave
So.
1. There are going to be more jobs available throughout the 2020.
So let me get this
Just for the
straight.
first
You want to get good paying jobs to people that live in this community?
Yes.
Keep them coming.
Yeah.
Keep
And you
'em
don't
coming,
live here.
buddy.
I live in Lewiston, actually.
Oh, okay, we won't hold it against you.
And thank you very much
Thanks
for
for caring
coming out
about
tonight,
Lisbon.
sir. And so, yeah, email addresses. You're going to need something from us so that you can get those over. Yeah, perfect.
After the meeting, I'll
Yep.
Perfect, thank you. It was Jerry, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Jerry. Next item.
There's no executive session. Order 2019-62 adjournment.
Make that motion.
Second.
Everybody's doing the thing.
All in
yeah.
favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Thank you, everyone.
Burn, you stole my thunder.
Ready to rock and roll.
I gave you credit, though, Kathy.
I know, right? I was trying.
Sat longer than my allotted time.
Yeah, right? Hey, long road.
It's a long road. Still not done.